going on, everybody? Hello again and welcome back to another episode of the Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch. Make some noise, clap it up, get excited wherever you are. We are back with another action-packed episode for you today, as we got so much to cover in the boxing realm, specifically as we got Inoue making his return to the ring to defend his undisputed titles at Super Bantamweight against Doheny. I'm gonna give my prediction for that fight and reacting to Christian and Billy, the #1 ranked super middleweight in the world, in his fight versus Derevyanchenko, beating Derevyanchenko, but did this prove that he is ready to indeed fight Canelo? All this and more is going to be talked about on this show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And please go ahead, leave a like on the video, comment your thoughts and opinions, subscribe to the channel, and share the show with everybody that you know, so we can keep on building up this empire of a community together. We're going to keep on growing, and it's all thanks to you and your support. But again, all that nicety stuff, also available on every podcasting platform imaginable. Apple, Spotify, you name it, we're on it. And if we're not, tell us, and we will get there, absolutely. But again, all that self-promotion aside, we got fights to cover, we got boxing to get into, and since we got boxing to get into, it's time to step into the ring. That's right. Oh yeah, ring the bell. Let's get it started. Round one of this show going underway, as we have to discuss first and foremost Inoue in its turn. That's right, the monster is back. Yes, indeed. The monster is back. The monster is looking to devour another opponent and add another soul to his already impressive collection of accolades and knockouts galore. And his opponent this time, Doheny, or Doheny. I believe I'm saying his name correct. If not, please correct me in the comments below. But either way, still, how is this fight going to go, and what is going to transpire with arguably the best in the world with Naoya Inoue? Well, who is Doheny? First and foremost, Doheny, 26-4, 20 KOs. The brother for the division is a great puncher, great knockout artist. This is a man who, again, had lost against Sam Goodman, who was another top 10, top 5 contender. Also was in talks, rumored to fight against Inoue for this date on September 3rd, by the way, which is when this fight is happening. But now it's Doheny, but he lost him early in his career, a couple years ago, maybe 2023, 2022, if I have my dates correctly. But since then, has gone on a 3-fight knockout win streak and has revamped his career, beating some very respectable names. Now coming in, even though he's older, looking to make one last grasp at being a world champion, going up against arguably the best of a generation in Naoya Inoue. So this man has some legitimate credentials to some degree, but what is it that he can do to face off against somebody, to even hurt somebody of the caliber of Inoue? Well, like we said before, he's got power. Those 20 KOs aren't a fluke. It is real pop. It's not just scrubs. He's been fighting, but he's been fighting for a decently long time. And again, he is more defensive than Neary. Let's get that straight. Remember the fight with Inoue versus Neary, when Neary was more so of a come forward, heavy punch type fighter. Yes, more athletic, understandable. Had more pop. Yes, he did. No doubt about it. But in terms of just skill set defensively, Doheny is more defensively sound. He's more defensively adept. He has more tools to be able to make sure that he's... Now, does he use them correctly? Well, we'll get into that as we get through more of the breakdown. But even still, a little more defensive than what we've seen from people like Neary. He's more of a counter puncher, and this is a brother who looks to land his best shot, the right hand, whether it's a straight or a hook. That's the shot that gets a lot of people out there, even to the body or to the head. In this last fight, ironically enough, who was on the prelim card of Inoue versus Neary, we saw Doheny hurt and KO his opponent to the body. That was the thing. And so he's got some real great power, is adept at both head and body attack, and with him being a little more defensive than, more defensive than Neary, and having a more nuanced array in his ability to counter, he could give some legitimate problems, at least in the realm of, if anybody can give somebody some trouble, at least he has some form of skill set that he can say he can use versus Inoue. Can he beat him? Another story. But if he can, what does he do? He's got these things in his arsenal. But outside of that, there's not really much that he can do against Inoue. No, it's not really much he can do against Inoue, because Inoue, for all accounts, is leagues bound better than Doheny. Way better than TJ. And it's because TJ isn't fast, can somewhat be flat-footed, uses head movement way too much, and not uses guard, and then vice versa. If Doheny uses his guard, he doesn't move his head. So it's like it's a catch-22. He can't really do both at a high level. He'll do one or the other. What I hate about TJ is the fact that he has that guard and that jab out, especially when he's trying to probe and gain distance and essentially stiff arm you off balance. This will be his set pose, and he'll keep his head on one center line, or at least on one line angled down. And he'll rely on his athleticism and his instinctual movement to be able to get out the way when necessary. But against Inoue, that's not going to happen. You get into that same position, that same posturing pose with your jab out in one hand using as your guard, trying to rely on just head movement alone to keep you safe and while scoring, Inoue's going to kill you to kingdom come. Inoue's going to knock you out and take you out easily. That's one of the biggest things in this game. As though he's more defensively nuanced than what we saw from Inoue's last fight with Naoya, in terms of Naoya being Inoue's opponent. TJ, while he's got more defensive tools, the brother still doesn't use them correctly. And he's been using them for so long that right now, nobody's been able to, well, people have been able to capitalize, don't get me wrong. But against somebody like Inoue, it's going to be easy pickings for him to be able to pick apart and destroy and just outright knock out. And it was too fast, too powerful. There are too many times when we see TJ want to use and slip and get cute when he's moving his head, instead of actually shelling up and doing the proper blocking technique. And since that's the case, we know Inoue, with his ability to box and fight at the highest of levels, there is no weakness in his offensive game, and his defensive game is sublime. His defensive game is indeed sublime. There's nothing that TJ is going to be able to do to have any form of success against Inoue. The only thing is maybe try to rough him up because he has some legitimate strength to him. Get on the inside and wear him down with your physicality. But again, Inoue, being pound for pound, one of the stronger fighters in the world, I don't think it's going to work either. He won't even let you be able to get up and clinch him, though he wants to stay in the fire. And if he does stay in the fire, one of the biggest things that TJ does like to do is trade, again, with that right hand. He will be willing to trade with that right hand. But if you are Inoue, you should look to do that too. Because I'm willing to bet that TJ's power is not what you faced against Naoya. And the speed at which TJ likes to fight, there's no way he's catching you in a trade situation. You are going to be able to hit him while getting out of the way at the same time, while still being able to stay in the pocket. And there's going to be nothing he can do. It'll be outright destruction. Oblivion. There'll be nothing that TJ will be able to do. He will be outboxed. He will be outgunned. And this is the biggest thing with TJ when he goes in the fight. If you have some legitimate power, he will get hesitant. He will look to be more defensive than he needs to be in terms of overly anticipating what you're going to do. And since that happens, you will see him potentially freeze up of his own volition, trying to bait out something in you. But if you try to play that game against Inoue will just straight up come out and hit you with the right straight, or hit you with the uppercut, or hit you with the left hook, any punch that he deems as desirable. And you won't be able to react to it. And you will get knocked out. The very thing that you try to do to say, if I can bait somebody with power, I can land with power of my own, that's going to be the very thing that ends you in this fight if you're TJ. There's no way in the world that TJ is going to be able to win this. And we will see, most likely, Inoue knock out TJ in a very spectacular fashion. And it shouldn't be a problem at all. It shouldn't really be an issue. Now, one issue that people do have is the fact that the people don't really know who TJ is. People don't really know who Doheny is. Not really a big name in the world of boxing. And since that's the case, there's been some gripes. Online, there are some gripes about this opponent. But here's what you need to understand about this. We've talked about how everybody needs to keep on fighting the best. We've talked about how holding Canelo, Tyson Fury, Usyk, Gervonta Davis, Shakur Stevenson, doesn't matter who. Everybody who is legitimately looking to be great, you got to keep on facing off against the best of the best. Clean out your division if you can. Become undisputed. Take on the next best opponents if you are undisputed. Go and push yourself if you need to, and move up if you've cleaned out an entire division. And with Inoue, we're at the same crossroads now. Now that you've gone and you have essentially fast track your way to victory by doing what nobody else does in the sport and fighting every single big name right off the jump and fighting essentially from the top down instead of working your way from the bottom up as a boxer and winning and knocking people out in spectacular fashion. Now, people are looking and say, well, wait a minute now. Who else is there to fight in this division? Are you now cherry picking? Are you now going out of your way and not taking hard fights anymore? No, that's not the case. This is literally up to the best competition he can face because of who he's already beaten. He already beat 1 through 4, just about 1 through 4, 1 through 3 in the division, both in bantamweight and the super bantamweight. Undisputed in both weight classes. Took out Sevenfold, took out Tapalas, took out Neri. 3 people, killers. 3 killers. Fulton was supposed to be the buddy that would have given Inoue the most trouble. Cleaned him out. Tapalas gave him his hardest fight in the division in terms of his most exciting fight. Well, Neri gave him the most trouble in terms of, my gosh, I'm in danger. I got knocked down before when we'd never seen him before. Came back and did it and beat him with ease. As the fight went on, again, the hardest fight was Tapalas. Most dangerous fight, Neri. But he cleaned everybody out. And it has done a phenomenal showing. This is where we're at with Inoue. What do you do now? Because nobody thinks TJ can really win. I don't think he has a shot in the world. Again, for official prediction, we'll see Inoue knock out TJ potentially in 5 rounds. We may see a similar situation to Paul Butler in terms of cowering in the corner and just being too scared of the power and the trade and just succumbing to the outright onslaught that Inoue will bring to the table. That's what I think is going to happen. And he'll get knocked out in 5. If he's tough, he'll get knocked out in 8. But either way, he's getting knocked out before 10 rounds. Nobody thinks he's going to win. He doesn't have the skill set to win. He doesn't. He just doesn't. So now, you're looking at the landscape of the super bantamweight division. Looking at Inoue now with his titles in the ring. Where does he go? Well, I think after this fight, it's time to move up. It's time to move, if he can. It's time to move up. I get that everybody's body's different. Everybody's got a different ability to be able to face off against higher competition in terms of where their body can compete at its highest level. And that's the biggest struggle when you're moving up in weight. Can you, as a boxer, be able to still keep all of your same faculties and abilities and skill sets, everything that makes you you? Can you still keep it tuned at a high level as you put on more mass and muscle, going up against other people who are bigger than you? And that's the question. But with Inoue, I don't think there's a question. I think that should be a breeze. Hence, after this fight with TJ, don't fight Goodman. Go move up to 126. Go fight Figueroa. Go fight some of the tops at featherweight. Now it's time to turn it up. Now it's time to really get a test and gauge of your ability. Because you've dominated, you've beaten the heaviest hitters, you've been tested and showed you can get up. Like with Neri, when he caught you and knocked you down. Got up and was able to absolutely, again, whitewash that brother. And now against TJ Doheny, we're expecting another performance more dominating than what we saw against Neri. Should be, for me, perfectly honest, one of your better performances based on what I see with TJ and what I see with Inoue. This should be a highlight reel from start to finish. You don't want to miss up. You don't want to miss this fight. You're going to want to wake up at 3, 4 in the morning to watch this brother because it's going to be a spectacle to watch Inoue do what he wants to with TJ. But with that being said, you still got to push yourself. You still got to hold you to the same standard as everybody else. It's time to move up. It's time to go fight people like Figueroa. Get your shot at featherweight. See if you can become undisputed there. See if you can become a champion. Because this is where, again, Inoue's in his prime. Inoue is, in my opinion, from a talent perspective, the best in the world. From a pound-for-pound perspective, he is second. It is Usyk, Inoue, Crawford. Actually, no, I take that back. He's third. Because of what we've seen Crawford do. Again, we got to go with what you've done lately. What has your accolades and achievements, what did it garner you? We just saw Crawford move up to 154, fight against one of the best 154 pounders for the interim title. Again, Figueroa holds the official or the legitimate world championship for the WBC. but fought for the interim title, won against one of the best in the division, and Madrigal. That is unquestionable. Again, Madrigal became interim champion in 10 fights. 10. With a vast amateur boxing experience. No, the brother was real. The brother's legit. That brother was good. Is good. And still, though it was a struggle, we saw Crawford still take care of business. Because of that, second best in the world. Usyk, Crawford, Inoue. No problem there. But even still, with Inoue, as the third best in the world, as still one of the tops in any division, you still got to go and press your way. You got to go up and move up to 124 and fight Brandon Figueroa. Now, if you can beat him, my gosh, now that would be incredible. Now we're looking at real Pacquiao level steps in greatness. That's what we're looking at. And we've said this before about it. He's on that trajectory. He's already on that road up the ladder of being one of the greatest that we've ever seen. His ability coupled with how fast and how hard he is pushing himself to continue to fight the best of the best. Off the jump, there's no reason in the world to say if he achieves the trajectory to its fullest, if he keeps on this ladder and succeeds, that he can't be seen as one of the greatest we've ever seen in history. Already, in my opinion, is one of the greatest we've ever seen. I've said this before. He, in a way, is already one of the best boxers we've ever seen in the history of the sport. From a refined standpoint, to a speed standpoint, to an athletic standpoint, to a knockout ability, to just outright ring IQ and everything that he brings as a boxer. There are few people that I can ever say in boxing history that are up to the level of near perfection that I've seen from Naoya Inoue. There just isn't. He makes people look like fools. He makes most boxers look like chumps. Makes world-class champions look like amateurs. Look like they never stepped in a boxing ring. He's got a sixth gear that only a few people in boxing today have, like Crawford, Usyk, Canelo, Benavidez to some degree. But it's not many people that have that extra oomph that Tank Davis. That extra oomph, that extra ability to go beyond what you deem possible. To be able to step up to a gauge and to a threshold. Step up to an atmosphere that nobody else can breathe in. That is what Inoue does. That's what he's got in him. That's what he's shown throughout his entire career. But if he wants to keep the legacy on the same track of greatness, got to go and move up and fight at 126 at this point. Because I don't see any other challenges at 122. I don't see any more challenges to bantamweight. I don't. And if he wants to move up and take it slow, no problem there. That's how I would ideally want him to do it. Maybe don't fight Brandon Figueroa, though you would beat him most likely because of what you did against Stephen Fulton. And Stephen Fulton fought Figueroa to a draw. And you made him look like a fool and turned to Stephen Fulton. You faced off against Brandon Figueroa, most likely you would beat him. But if you are wary of the weight discrepancy, what you could take at 126, test out the waters and fight one of the lower top 10 at the division. Then go and see, okay, how can I fare? That would be a great testing ground. But even still, the competition that you've had now and that you have at your disposal at this point in super bantamweight, you've cleaned everybody out. You've done what few people can do in a sport. You have successfully climbed the mountain twice and made it so that every other opponent is obsolete because nobody else can compete on your level. You've stayed. You've reigned. Now it's time to see if you can push your reign to a new kingdom. Go take over new territory. See if you can go fight at 126. Go fight at featherweight and face off against people like Brandon Figueroa for the titles and see where that takes you. If you can do that, for now, my gosh, it'll be incredible. But this is where we got to hold to the same standard. Even somebody as great as Inoue, who has not ran from any test whatsoever, your greatness still has to be held at the same caliber of others, which is once you've done everything, look to do more. Now that you've gone and cleaned out 2 divisions, time to go face off against the third. Because we see the landscape of 122 right now. Nobody else can touch him. There's nobody in that division that can touch Naoya Inoue. He is a proverbial god amongst men when it comes to the super bantamweight division. When it comes to in the entirety of 120 and 122, nobody can do anything with him. He just can't. He just leagues and bounds better. Now, challenge greatness in a new regime. If you keep on achieving, we'll keep on talking. Because my gosh, you are worth talking about. And strictly when it comes to Inoue and greatness, what we have to applaud is the fact he's been doing this so quickly, so fervently, chasing greatness constantly, not wasting any time. Notice, he is in his prime right now, and we don't feel that's wasted in the slightest, do we? We don't feel like we're waiting on him to arrive. We don't feel like we're waiting on Inoue to become something great. We see him as he is great. He has achieved. He is a champion. Understand, the brother, half of his fighting career has been fighting former, current, or future world champions. It's been a non-stop onslaught of outright killers in competition. People that have already proven themselves are the only people that he's facing, and nobody else. Rapidly moving through the ranks of essentially a speed run to domination. This is the greatness that we've seen from Inoue, which is what we want to see from other boxers. Inoue is a callback to an era of boxing that we used to have. When you had about 10 or 11 fights and you went undefeated, okay, it's time to face you off against a world champion. It's time to face you off against a former world champion. It's time to face you off against a future potential world champion, another crossroads prospect who's also looking to face and be a world champion. Somebody who is on the same trajectory. Can you beat them and overtake their climb to the mountain? And then inevitably get a rematch once they do indeed reach that mountaintop, before or after you. That's what it used to be. That's how fights used to go. That's how we got trilogies. That's how we got 4-fight phenomenal affairs. Ali versus Liston. Ali was young, mad young, incredibly young, and seen as a loudmouth. Just somebody who didn't really have any business in the sport because of the hate by fans. All talk, no action. Seen as a pretty boy who, if he faced off against a real killer like Liston, well, he would be nothing. Well, one, kept on dominating, kept on succeeding. Next thing you know, boom, goes and gets an opportunity to fight Liston early in his career. Now, goes and beats him. Goes and hey, overcomes adversity, gets blinded in his eyes, substance on the gloves, which is what everybody, from what I can find, believe that's true. Substance on Liston's gloves, gets in Ali's eye, still comes back, fights through it, fights above it, dominates, gets the win, gets the stoppage, TKO. Ali is a new champion. My God, shocked the world at such a young age. Such a young age. Floyd Patterson was formerly the youngest heavyweight champion in the world, whose record got beat by, who else? Mike Tyson, who became the youngest heavyweight champion in the world. And all this, what was he, 21? Just about. When Tyson won the title, Ali was 22, 23, maybe 24 when he won the title. We're looking at dominance early on, getting tested early on. Where is that now? That's the question. Where is that type of greatness now? Where is that type of drive now? And yes, here's where all this really boils down. We look at the boxing landscape. We understand that promoters promote. We understand that boxing is a business. We get wholeheartedly that there are powers that be that control the narrative in boxing in terms of who gets what opportunity and when. You got people like the WBC who back certain champions like Canelo or like Errol Spence Jr. with the IBF. And then when people like Terrence Crawford get the belt, boom, IBF immediately strips it away because you didn't do a immediate mandatory fight with their fighter. Or, like with Canelo, WBC lets Canelo hold the belt without fighting the necessary mandatory, nor calling for said mandatory, as is per officially done in their own rules and bylaws if you go read on their website. They are the ones that call for mandatory. It's not the fighter. It's the belt commission. It's the belt sanctioning body. They are the ones that call for fights to happen as a mandatory. You have to fight one per year, and we can delegate one fight to happen as a mandatory whenever we see fit. That's summarizing what their laws say in how they operate as an organization. It's not the fighter. It's not the fighter. It's the belt. The belt makes mandatories happen or not. The belt obligates whether or not somebody gets a fight or not in the mandatory position. That's why people like Dillian White can be mandatory for over 3 years. Why David Benavidez was a mandatory after beating Caleb Plant for over 2 years. This is a problem. Again, powers that be are holding this stuff back. But at the same time, even with that being the case, when it comes to the boxers specifically, though we know the sport itself is corrupt, the way that they are approaching the world of boxing is also different. Now it's changing, but it's different. We used to see, like I said before, early on, you fought continually, and you got opportunities against real competitors early on. You were tested early when you showed that you were ready early. This is why we see people like Jared Anderson getting exposed by people like Martin McCauley when Anderson has nearly 20 fights under his belt. By the time Inoue had 15 fights, I believe he was a champion, or at least en route to fighting for a title. It's not okay that this is the stagnation that we're seeing with boxers in their ability to really get tested. Yes, it's a money game. Yes, you don't want to put somebody in there too soon. Even Tyson had people that cussed him out who said he didn't want to face off against yet because he wasn't ready. I feel that completely. But what I am saying is that at a certain point in time when we know that the bun is ready to come out the oven, that the bread has risen, is now ready to see if it survives, that the souffle, per se, has now risen inside the oven. And it's time to poke a hole in it to see if it stands up or if it'll fall flat. You still leave it in the oven. And it's like, no, that's not how it normally works. That's not how it's supposed to work. Take it out, test it. We need to see boxers test it more often. We need to see people get in continuous competition. Take, for example, Shakur Stevenson. I believe he's fighting with Jim Cardona, rumor to fight somebody named Jim Cardona, Tony Cardona, somebody Cardona, I believe. Again, you can fact check me absolutely. But somebody, I believe it's Cardone, whatever his name is, starts with a C, rumored to have agreed to get in a fight with him late this year. Now, with that being the case, why is this fight happening when you could have fought better competition like Schofield, another great, powerful, up-and-coming boxer who is looking to become a champion, who is vastly showing his mettle and his abilities in the boxing realm? You could have fought him, but you haven't. And he wants these opportunities. Give it to him. Let these people test yourself and test others. If you say you want to face people like Tank and other people, great, all for it, absolutely. Still need to see Tank fight Shakur. But at the same time, Shakur, if you can make these other fights happen with other great people to show your worth even more, to give us more credence to say that you are indeed able to beat somebody like a Tank, rise up your cachet even more by toppling another up-and-coming, great, powerful prospect, you should take the opportunity too. But you don't. You haven't. Again, smart move isn't always the best move. Because now we're seeing by the time people are 30, they are now seeing, oh yeah, he's real. He's legit. Now he's got world acclaim. Used to be by the time you were 25, now you got that same level of world-renowned cachet. Global boxing acceptance of this is a real contender. Now, Shakur is already seen as one of the greatest, one of the best talented boxers today. Defensively, he's sublime. Boring to watch, but sublime technically. Doesn't change the fact that in terms of what he is still, you haven't shown enough to give us full confidence in, is your status really what we deem it to be? Or is there a real flaw in who you are? Because of you don't face off against certain types of fighters often. And when you do, like with De Los Santos, even with injury, you still go and you don't aim to end the night. You just aim to win the night, like I talked about earlier. It's about how you go about your fights. There is a distinct level of change in your demeanor, in your tactics, in your outright confidence in the ring in terms of what I need to do to win and what I can do to win. They're not the same thing if somebody comes at you with power. If you want to put that to bed and say, no, I can outbox anybody, well, go and fight somebody who can catch up to you, like Admiral Schofield. Give him an opportunity if you want to do it. These types of fighters would have already been in the ring with each other and already shown who is indeed ready for the next step, who still got room to grow. That would have happened by now. Why hasn't it? Because it's not the makeup of today's boxing. It's a shame, but it's the truth. Boxing today could be and should be so much more exciting. Constant ebb and flow of great fights, a persistent amount of prospect fighting prospect, star fighting star. You don't need a belt to get in the ring with somebody who is also a killer. You just need to get in the ring and show that you're better than this killer. Then, when you show that you're better, you get an opportunity to plain and simple. Plain and simple. But again, not how the boxing realm works. Since it's not, we see people operate differently. So why Inoue is an incredibly is an anomaly of a breed. Because he's gone, he's conquered, and in the realm of conquering, he's done it in a way that nobody else is doing it today. Taking on the best of the best. Again, starting from the top down, working his way to championship after championship, routinely and almost exclusively, only looking to fight people who have legitimate testament, experience, and actual skill. If you don't have that, you don't be in the ring. That's what he does. That's what he's been doing. And again, when it comes to the TJ fight, the brother right now, there's nothing else really for him in the division because he's beaten everybody else who is the best in said division. Hence why TJ Doheny is the only guy that he can really face off. Him and again, Goodman. But everybody else is leagues below because of what he's done. His talent plus the experience of fighting the best of the best early and often, always got him to where he is now. Other boxers can do that same thing. Tank, like I said before, should have already been on that same rise in his career. Now he should already be bigger than what he is. Even with his great popularity now, still could be better. He still should be. There should be a closer argument for Tank being the face of boxing than Canelo. It should be closer, but it's not. There should be a better argument for Tank going up and moving and fighting at 140. Him versus Tio. Him versus, again, Doheny. I don't care if Doheny lost, but the loss got scrubbed and now it's a no contest. Still, he should have fought Doheny at 135 when he was there. He should have fought Doheny at 140 and go on and move up since you've already fought at 140. All this stuff should have already happened as a boxer. But because you don't make it happen when you have power, that's where it's an issue. It's an incredible issue. In a way, it's challenging greatness because he's using the power and cash that he has to build a legacy and continue to push the boundary. Yet we've gotten so used to other people not pushing the boundary while still having power. Canelo, Tank, before recent with him fighting Frank Martin, and now looking to all of a sudden trying to really fight the best of the best. Potentially looking to fight an old Lomachenko once he returns when he should have fought him 3 years ago. We're seeing people with power like Canelo who should have fought David Benavidez right after Caleb Plant, right after Demetrius Andre, right after Jaime Munguia. He should have gotten to the table, looked to make that fight happen. But then, we're seeing people with power like Tyson Fury who continue to run and run and run from Usyk for over 3 years when he was undisputed champion. Or when he was the lineal and unified. I believe it was you. No, he wasn't even unified. He was just a WBC champ, the WBC and lineal champion. When he was the biggest face in heavyweight boxing, one of the biggest in the world outright. Fought Derek Chisora for a fourth or third time. Fought Dillian White for finally gave him his opportunity at a title after he was, who knows, Methuselah age. Knocked them both out easy. Finally, you got to get pulled out because of so much money. You would be a fool not to take it. And you finally give us the fight that we've been asking for to prove that you are indeed the best heavyweight in the world. And guess what? You failed. But we don't look at it negatively. We look at it as, my gosh, you fought one of the best fights you could have against just a better fighter. And we still give you all your respect because you are indeed the real deal in Tyson Fury. Go and rematch him. Learn from your mistakes and show that you're still great. Plain and simple. Keep it simple. But people with power like those three that I've named and much more don't do a thing. They don't push the boundary of boxing. They don't push the boundary of themselves. Beyond just sanctioning bodies, beyond just belt commissions, beyond just promoters and power that be, that make and control, to some degree, the careers of boxers. It is still on the boxer to push to make stuff happen. We saw it with Inoue. We see it with David Benavidez. Continually still push. I don't care what you want to say. He is still went and fought everybody that Canelo didn't fight. Canelo did fight. And is now going to challenge a division that Canelo failed at or is 1-1 at, beating Kovalev but losing to Bivol, now looking to become undisputed against Bivol, while in his debut fight in the division, fighting a former world champion who lost to Beterbiev, who is now fighting Bivol for the undisputed title. One of those two he's going to fight, but he's on the linear track to keep on testing himself. That's what we want to see from everybody. But if we don't, it's an issue, it's a problem, and it makes the sport hard to watch. We've had some of the best boxing in years last year in 2023. Still having great fights in 2024. No doubt about it. But this is still, it's on the individual. We could see boxers making these fights happen. But we don't. When it was Frazier, Ali, Foreman, Ken Norton, Von Lyle, Jerry Quarry, in that golden era of heavyweights, everybody, when they weren't fighting the best of the best, they were fighting each other. Frazier fought Corey twice. Von Lyle fought Ali and fought Foreman. George fought Frazier and fought Ali. We can keep everybody got in the mix with everybody. Nobody ran from anybody. Everybody took a test that was the next best guy was the man that you faced off against. That's what we want. But it's so hard to get. Not just because of the powers that be, but boxers themselves, they also have control of their own career. They can make fights happen. They can make the negotiating table open. They can make the call. They can choose to still say, no, I want this fight. They can. But they don't. And if they did, a lot more stuff will get proven. It'd be a lot easier to tell who is indeed great and who's not. Who's a poser and who's indeed the real deal. Who has the ability to actually be great and who doesn't. Instead of having rumors swirling about who indeed is great and who isn't, up until everybody's near or out of their prime, and now you fight and somebody gets proven right or wrong. And it's like, where do you go now? Is this going to be your magnum opus? Are you waiting to the end of your career all of a sudden to try to make stuff happen? Now go for bigger fights, go for bigger competition, go with people that you could have fought in their prime, in your prime? Because now, oh, that's a money fight now. When it could have been an even more lucrative trilogy if you fought them in the past. It's insane. And it's horrible. It's the landscape of boxing today. Inoue is nixing that trend. But many fighters still are on that same trajectory. And since they are, it's a problem. It's a major problem. But as we continue to move on with what will most likely be the final segment for the show, have to discuss Christian and Billy versus Derevyanchenko. And his performance, again, in Billy beats Derevyanchenko in 12 rounds by unanimous decision. Derevyanchenko essentially tore his bicep straight off the bone in that fight and still, somehow, some way, showed heart, showed real grit, showed determination. I believe the brother has never been knocked out in his career and still held that true today. And was, as much as he was getting thrown around the ring, he did not fall. And he kept on fighting. Credit to him. Such heart, such grit, such outright determination in this fight. It was insane. But again, the day went to Christian and Billy, the number one ranked super middleweight in the world. This brother is legit. Now 28-0, now 29-0, 23 KOs in his career. The brother, he's got so much in him that he showed. Already looks incredibly strong, and he is incredibly strong. But he's also very quick. His hands are very fast. Has great punching power. Again, Derevyanchenko didn't go down. Credit to him. Credit to his heart. But my gosh, most punchers, if you faced off against that level of power, you're going out. Especially with the ease at which he was able to land. Or the significance at which he was able to land. I believe he landed over 200 punches in this fight, if I'm not mistaken. But even still, it was an outright onslaught. And it was great. Showed great power, showed great hand speed, had a phenomenal body attack. This man is not afraid to go and attack the gas tank of his opponent and be relentless with it. He can also track you down. He's got underrated defense. He can move, he can slip, he can dodge. He's got good instinct. He's got a lot going for him as a fighter. Oh, yes, he does. He's aggressive. He is fervent. He is a man who will keep on coming. He can cut off the ring as well. He has a sense of what combination to throw. Great punch selection in terms of when to throw certain shots. Was tripling up on that right hand when he was on the inside with Derevyanchenko, when he finally realized that he couldn't use his guard as effectively as he wanted to because of the injury. There is something there with Mbili. But with that being said, there's still a lot that isn't there. That gives me not a whole lot of confidence that he can beat Canelo. Not because he doesn't have talent, but because of what he didn't show. The talent that he didn't show is the problem. Against Derevyanchenko, forget age, forget how this was his last gasp, most likely, to be a champion. This was a man who was injured. This was a man who was hurt. This was a man who could not defend himself on one side of his body. Could barely lift his arm on one side of his body. And you still didn't take him out when you realized the opening way too late. If anything, even after you realized the opening, still you were able to have success. He was able to have success to Derevyanchenko with just one arm, and you couldn't nullify and end the show like you should have. That is a problem. That is a big time problem. You're slow to adapt. You don't have the ability to, even after you adapt, still make sure that you are able to completely devoid, or rather nullify and make devoid whatever the opponent tries to do once you understand what their only line of operation is. It's frustrating. It was really frustrating knowing that you could have gone and ended the show, but you didn't. As many times as you wobbled Derevyanchenko, as many times as you hurt Derevyanchenko, especially later on in the fight, still you couldn't get it done. Now again, I keep saying, credit to Derevyanchenko and his toughness. It does not change the fact that this is not a good look for somebody who is supposed to be the best at 168 outside of the actual best in Canelo. This should be this should have been a statement fight. This should have been a statement fight for you. More than just good offense. It should have ended in an absolute destruction. That's what should happen, but it didn't. But it did not. On top of the fact that defensively still, when an opponent had one arm, they were still able to land and give you trouble and give you something to worry about. Instead of you bulldozing through it. Constantly throwing the kitchen sink at Derevyanchenko because there was nothing else that he had to really throw you off of your game at that point. This is a problem when it comes to viewing you at the lens of Canelo. Canelo is still elite. Canelo is still pound for pound. Still, the brother is one of the best boxers. If you want to be somebody that we can see as a serious threat, your performances have to show us that you are indeed that threat. Now, your offensive ability, hey, it could be a threat to Canelo. You have power. You do. You got great speed. You can cut off the ring. If you want to fight on the inside with Canelo, hey, that could be very entertaining. Don't get me wrong. Underrated defense, like I said earlier. But even still, You, as a fighter in this fight, didn't show me enough that you're ready for Canelo. You just didn't. Now, if you want to show me that you're ready, go fight Jaime Munguia. I believe Munguia's got another fight coming up in end of this month, potentially early next month. Fight Munguia. If Munguia wins his next fight, and if you beat him, now I'll say, okay, yeah, let's see you against Canelo. Let's see you against him as a better opportunity to say, hey, there's a bigger chance for you to win than where I have you right now. Because this was a performance that you can pick a lot of good out of it. You can. But the bad, for the circumstance and the context of the fight, doesn't give me a whole lot. It doesn't. It doesn't give me confidence. It doesn't give me confidence that you are indeed ready to face off against somebody like Canelo, when a person with one arm, who was, mind you, not running from you, was standing in front of you, was actually trying to fight back, was still giving it his all. You could not get rid of him. You couldn't get rid of him. You couldn't get the ref to stop. You couldn't get his corner to stop the fight. That's a problem. That is a big problem when you are looking to be going up against the face of boxing in Canelo, going up against the former undisputed super middleweight champion. You have to be able to end the show against an opponent like that with a circumstance and context surrounding that fight. One arm, bicep tear, can't throw his jab, let alone his left hand. He only has the right hand to operate with. He is going now only to a Philly shell and can't fully shell up with his full guard. You have one goal, which is to end the fight at that standpoint with your power and your actual offensive ability. And you still don't do it, let alone you get touched more often than you really should in the entirety of that fight. That is a problem. That's a problem. There were times when I was saying he had more success with one hand than he did with two after the tear. That's not okay when it comes to what you can do against the best of the best. This is the criteria. You got to give a performance that gives me real context or confidence to say that, yeah, you handled your business and you handled it well. Let me see you fight Canelo. I can't say that yet. Fight Jaime Munguia. Then I can say you're ready for Canelo. Because like Jaime Munguia, you're a come-forward fighter. You're incredibly strong, athletic. You're a volume puncher. You can go for 12 rounds. You have stamina on you in terms of ability. You have a gas tank. And you have the offensive output that can give anybody some real concern and the strength that can hurt anybody. But you got to show that that strength ain't just show, that it's real. Can you put it to work? That's what we need to see. And against Derevyanchenko, when you should have been able to and done something nobody else could have done in the best scenario possible against a fighter who, again, has never been knocked out. This was the one opportunity to actually knock him out with everything going your way, and you still couldn't do it. You still adapted late. You still didn't figure out that he couldn't use both his hands up until a couple rounds later. And even then, you were still letting him tee off on you to some degree when you could have and should have been able to bulldoze through him at that point with a constant onslaught of punches, especially with him being willing to stand with you to trade and throw. And you still didn't do it. You still didn't get the job done. You got to prove to me that you can beat Munguia before you prove to me that you can face off and have any shot against Canelo. Right now, while you would be favorable to fight Canelo in terms of your style would make for an entertaining fight, coming forward, looking to be aggressive, fast puncher, a strong puncher, having the stamina to go 12 rounds, that would make for a great fight. But it would make for a great fight that I know you wouldn't win after seeing this. Go fight Munguia. Now we got a better gauge as to if you are indeed even ready for that level. Or if that number one rank potentially is a lie. Because it might be. But we will have to see. If you want to face off against Canelo really and have a real sense of I can win, Munguia should be your next target after his fight. Then I can give you a real consensus as to if you will ever be ready for somebody like Canelo. If you can't beat Munguia and beat him at his own game, which is your game, come forward in fighting, aggression, and stamina-driven onslaught of pressure and power. You can't beat him, you have no shot against Canelo. And right now, you didn't show me you're ready for Canelo. Not yet anyway. But with that being said, now we go. This has been another episode of the Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the show. Again, please leave a like on the video, comment, thoughts, and opinions. Subscribe to the channel and share the show with everybody that you know so we can keep on building up this empire together. I've been Jean-Luc Welch. Y'all have been wonderful. Peace and love. We are out of here.